Welcome to the July edition of Table Talk. It's good to have you with us. A big shout out to Classic Interiors for powering Table Talk each and every month. And then, of course, a thank you to Gandolfo's for providing our delicious lunch. We're just coming off of that big America 250 celebration as we focused on some of the victories over the past 250 years. But as we watch what's unfolding, there's no way to deny that we really are in the battle right now. It's a battle for the soul of America. And author Stephen Rabb, I had a chance to chat with him a couple weeks ago. He is the author of the Founder's Speech series, and he said something that really hit me. He said, if we want to solve the problems of our country, we have to solve the problems of our heart first. So we are going to pick things up there. But first, let's go ahead and meet our incredible panel. We'll start right here with you, Mark.
Okay, my name is Mark Byers. I live in Iona. I own a little handyman business, and I love this area. I think it's great to live. I have I have 28 grandkids, and so I have a big family.
All right. Charity.
Love it. Hi, I'm Charity Hatterley, and my most recent title 3 months ago is grandmother, so that's exciting.
Yay.
First grandbaby. My experience comes from real estate development, also business development and leadership development. So anything that needs to be developed, I'm your girl.
Well, I'm Jeff Aldridge. Last year, I ran for mayor of Idaho Falls. It was a fun experience. I got to learn so much more about the community. Community got to know more about me, which is a lot of fun. And then just been... Since then, just serving in different capacities throughout the city, and then just continuing with my my business and leadership programs.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here. There are a lot of efforts to divide us. We see that constantly, one story after another. So keeping in mind that idea of solving the problems of our hearts, as you think about this division, what is it that is most concerning to you? Let's go ahead and start right here, Mark.
Well, one of the things I see is we have a disconnect between families. I think family is the biggest place where it all starts, and I would like to see more focus on bringing families back together again, especially in the height of AI and everything else. I would love to see where we can reignite that connection, one-on-one connection. Like, just find a way to help parents, give them the tools they need to teach their children and to have these places where we can come to get that connection. Because I think that's what we're missing is when it says it comes from the heart, if you don't have anybody out there that understands what that's talking about, then it's important to somebody has to teach them. Somebody has to bring that light to them. And a lot of people are waiting for somebody to tell them because they don't know what else to do.
So important. Our brains really are wired for connection, and there's a lot of effort out there to get us to buy into the fact that human connection can be substituted with something like AI. Charity, what comes to your mind?
Well, I think the freedom of thought. And when it comes down to our hearts, there's a lot of emotional charge. And we think we're such logical creatures. But when our emotions, we were talking about this earlier, our emotions are hijacked, that shuts off our ability to think critically for ourselves. And pretty soon we're swayed into maybe a mob mentality or groupthink or some other narrative that we wouldn't subscribe to if we were in a state of being able to choose for ourselves. And I would like to add what Mark said. He spoke about connection. When you think about the power of connection and being wired for connection, in infants and in the elderly, if there is a lack of connection, the tendency could be to turn to the wall and die, right? There are studies on that. And so what happens to the rest, what's in between for the rest of us who are not as susceptible to that mortal doom there, perhaps that's manifesting as the mental health, as the anxiety, as, there's other measures that play into that. But I think that disconnection is so damaging to every aspect of our lives, and we are not thriving. Like, that is the key. It's a failure to thrive in those extreme cases, literally, but we are experiencing a failure to thrive. And I do believe a big part of that is the lack of connection. There's this tendency to convince, like it's us against them, me against you, rather than to open our hearts and connect and learn from others of different perspectives. That's where solutions come from. But convincing each other isn't getting us anywhere.
You're right on point. We see a lot of examples of people really being caught in that survival mode, and that is not where you're going to see the real progress that we would hope to see. Jeff, how about you?
Yeah, when it comes to division, I think one of the hardest things that we're just need to navigate culturally is all these microcultures. Like, you can get affirmation for anything, and so you can start to go down rabbit holes. And if you have an idea, you can go online and you can get affirmation that affirms like your thinking process and gets you deeper and deeper and deeper and disconnected from anybody who has maybe a disagreement, or to have that empathy to understand what someone else's position, even if you disagree. And so what we start to do is create even artificial sides, right? Where it's like there's a default of like, well, I'm in this camp, so you're in that camp, and we give ourselves this permission to not have that empathy, to treat them in a different way. It's like that they're almost like an enemy, rather than something like, well, we have disagreements, and like maybe we probably have more in common than we don't, but we don't allow ourselves to get to that point because we're wearing team jerseys for whatever side is, and we're getting that dopamine hit of that affirmation. Like, yeah, of course I'm right. Like, oh yeah, my actions are justified. Oh yeah, I'm gonna say nasty things about that person because you're dehumanizing them or in a way, right? So I think that's where a lot of this division comes from, is that we get into these microcultures where we're seeking out and getting affirmation that gives us that dopamine hit, that we're not having real empathy and listening to others' opinions to even validate, invalidate, sharpen our thinking about where we stand on stuff. And so we like to think that we're being logical and like, well, I believe this, or I'm motivated by this because of these logical reasons. When a lot of it is, no, I'm being emotionally manipulated, right? And I'm basing my actions off of emotion rather than true logic. And it's hard, because then it makes it difficult for us to really come together to find, like, well, how do we find these solutions that are beneficial for all? Like, people are so resistant to give up any little ground, right? To the point where people would rather be righteous losers, right, than to compromise, like as if it's a bad thing to compromise.
So true. Compromise has become, unfortunately, a dirty little word where people are looked down on for that concept of being able to look for some common ground.
You brought it up earlier, and he kind of hit on it again, was I think the world that we're all talking about is, it seems like we're stuck in this survival mode. Like, everyone's on defense and nobody's taking the time to stop and listen to anybody. Like I was saying earlier, I've had these experiences where I've been around a group of young people and they're just talking over each other. And I walked up to one and I said, "Hey, what did that other one say over there?" "I don't know." You get that. Like, everybody wants to say their piece. Everybody wants to, like you say, they it's me, Yeah. But what are we missing that's causing that to go into that survival mode? And part of what we started with, connection. I think connection is a huge part of it, but just not that. It's that logical thinking part that we were talking about, the reasoning. So,
yeah, connection is feeling understood and heard. And so you're looking at the symptom of a lack of connection when people are trying so hard to be heard. It tells you they're not being heard. I've
had a conversation with young people before, like that same thing. I'll say, does how do you want to be heard? But then they won't do that to somebody else. It's as if they know how they want to be heard, but they're not thinking about how they're listening to other people.
Right. We're so starved for connection.
Yes.
Isn't that the truth? And it appears, as you're all talking, that people are listening to respond and not necessarily to understand.
Yeah. It's not coming to help challenge, right, or to change you, or because that's the thing. Like, even if you're talking with somebody who has a different opinion, they still might be wrong, but there's an understanding there where it's like, oh, I see where they're coming from, and rather than just like, no, wait, I'm just going to just reflect my predetermined what I think is my belief back at them.
Yeah, you brought up a really good point about dehumanization. There's so many horrific things that happen because of dehumanization, and that's kind of what's happening. And when we take social media, for example, there's the algorithm that will bring to you what you're most interested in. So everyone's living in their own echo chamber of affirmation of what they believe, rather than challenging ourselves to say, oh, here's another perspective on that I hadn't considered, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're right or wrong. There could be two opinions that when we bring them together, they actually create something even better than what we believed before. But when we're closed off and unwilling to even examine our own thoughts and others, that's where this disconnection continues to create problems in society and within our hearts, as you had said.
You know what's funny is that whenever there's a national tragedy, you often hear on the news like, oh, we need to have a dialogue. We need to have a dialogue, right? And you look at somebody like Charlie Kirk. What was Charlie Kirk doing? Whether you agree with him or disagree with him, like, he was out there having dialogue with people.
Sure.
But what was done is that he was so dehumanized that it was justification for someone to do that horrendous act to assassinate him. And it's like, wait a second. You guys claim that you want dialogue, but you want to dehumanize so that you can justify these actions to prevent it, just because you don't like it.
As you were talking, it took me right back to that day, and I was so heartbroken to see people cheering for the death of another human being. No matter if you agree or not, when we have stooped to a level that we will celebrate.
Check your heart.
Yes. And I think that is proof right there. That's one of the examples that demonstrates we are in the midst of a battle for the soul of America, a battle between good and evil.
Well, you know my proclivity about that. I'm all about love, and I won't be bashful to say it. Revisiting love, I think, is worth it, because if we can get a clear definition, if we can get a clear purpose, and people can understand it again, I think it has a chance. But love is hard work.
Well, I don't want to steer the conversation, but
no, go right
I was
ahead.
going to say, let's talk about that. In the English language, there's love, the word love, and we can interpret it based on our experience, right? Someone may feel like, well, that is just abuse. Like, I don't want to have anything to do with that because in the name of love, these things happened. Or we may think of it as, self-righteousness. Well, I love myself, but I don't think we have the words in English to express it as well as if you're to look at other languages that have different layers of love, which could be brotherly love or romantic love and love for humanity. And so when we're talking about love, I think what you're saying maybe, don't let me put words in your mouth, is humanity, the love for humanity, the love for your fellow beings. We are fellow siblings in humanity. And if we can see each other as that and not dehumanize each other, the power that we have as human beings is really unlimited. But we limit ourselves with these boundaries.
Speaking of power, I took my granddaughter two of them to McDonald's, and this waitress was, one of the servers there, she was working really hard to help people clean up messes, and I said, watch this is humanity. And I called the lady over there, and in front of my girls, I said, we just wanted to let you know what an awesome job you're doing and how much we appreciate your hard work. And the lady was in tears. She
Wow.
goes, you don't know how much that means to me today,
Wow.
to have that being said. And she was a mother. So that's the kind of humanity that, you just reach out. And my granddaughters went home with a happy, joyous heart. They were just couldn't shut up about it for the next 3 days. They just like, you wouldn't believe what we did to this lady. But that's the kind of stuff that need to reach out to people and be grateful for who they are.
Yeah, the power of love. Should we all start breaking out in that song?
I love that song, and if I was a singer, I'd be right on it.
But it is true.
It's true. The little things become the really big things. And as we look at this, there are other examples. I think about Luigi Mangione, accused of gunning down in broad daylight the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, a young husband and father, and the number of people who, because of their frustration with the insurance industry, somehow kicked their humanity right to the curb and started, again, celebrating that kind of just violence and people trying to justify it. And I had an interview with a woman shortly after that who told me that she had good friends that she had known her whole life, and she couldn't believe that they were now making a justification for this murder. And it was shocking to her. But that's kind of what we're all talking about, is just this maybe moving of the line where this is a little more acceptable. And we don't like murder, but if someone says something you don't like, then by all means.
Yeah, and those are like the really extreme examples, which I hope should draw awareness. But I think we've all witnessed this. I don't think anybody wants to go back and try to remember, but I was really disappointed during COVID, just how fast neighbors turned on each other just because they felt differently about how another person, another family may have thought what was best for their family or not, right? And how aggressive it got, and it's like how quickly it was saddening to me to see how fast like families turned on each other, that neighborhoods turned on each other, neighbors, and so there's the extreme examples, obviously the things like Charlie Kirk, Luigi Mangione. But then I think all of us would probably have some example even during the COVID era of like, wow, I thought we had a better relationship, and all of a sudden it was how fast in a change that somebody could have, and how they could justify treatment to other people just because they had disagreements.
Yeah. So true.
I have a short little thing and then a question. As a parent, I learned a lot. Oh boy, did I learn a lot about myself as a parent. But one of the things that really got to me, and I had to really think about this a long time, is when a parent says they love their child, will they excuse them from the consequences or try to keep them from getting the consequences they need to learn and grow? In other words, is love telling you to not make sure that they get in trouble or make sure that they aren't disciplined? And would this be something that could lead to the consequences? The fact that people don't, the consequences really, they don't exist.
It kind of goes to what you were saying a little, Charity, about really understanding love. What does it really mean? I mean, it's a word that we use a lot, but I think there are different levels of that. And we certainly see examples of maybe kids not being held accountable, and we're seeing some of that play out.
Yeah. I think that's a really good question and good thing to think about. The phrase that came to my mind, and you might chuckle at it, there's this tendency to want to save them, right? Oh, I love them, so I want to save them, right? And so there's this phrase, Jesus already saved them. That's not my job.
Right.
Right? My job is to help them step into their potential, to help them step into, and as you were saying earlier, face the challenges and navigate that. My job is not to save anybody. Jesus saved them already.
Yeah, I like that. And really, at the very core of it, discipline isn't really about this harsh punishment.
No.
It's about teaching. It's about leading and guiding. So I think if we can keep that in mind, because when that harsh punishment comes in that crosses a line, they're really not learning anything. What they are learning is maybe something that's going to prohibit them from being a functioning and productive member of society.
That is huge. And trying to help, especially young people as they mature, navigate into that, to have a good default posture. Like for example, when someone comes in, a lot of people don't know how to take criticism, and they're not teachable. And so that's really difficult. You should always have a good default posture to assume best intent unless otherwise indicated, right? So if someone comes to you with a criticism, take it as an opportunity to learn. Now, there's something like maybe there's something really beneficial that you could be better, and accept that, or maybe they are wrong, but it shouldn't just be a default. Your default reaction shouldn't be confrontation or deflection or anything like that. And so for teaching people, I'll give it an example. Like once I started getting into the business world, I had these opportunities to lead and present and do these things, and I always felt like I was kind of faking it. And then after it's like, wait, I've been doing this for decades. What am I? I'm like training people. I'm teaching people how to do this. Like, I'm not faking it anymore. But I had that imposter syndrome, right? And so what I like to try to do is I lead a trail life troop and do other things with youth leadership, is to give young people an opportunity to learn how to lead and present, and to be able to, in a safe environment, to receive and collect feedback for them to be better and for them to learn how to be teachable. So it's this two-part system of them being able to learn how to be leaders and communicate effectively, but then also be able to receive criticism to make them better. It's something that it's unless you're seeking that, I don't think we don't just get that naturally from just going to school, right? Or we don't have those opportunities typically. Like, I didn't necessarily have that opportunity. And so that's why I love to try to foster to grow healthy, mature young people into leaders.
Yeah, I think feedback is such a confidence booster. And if you think about kind of society and school, we are conditioned to, you got to have the right answer. You didn't do this right. So we have this conditioned desire, and probably just natural desire, to want to do something right. And if we're not right, then we're wrong. So if someone is giving me feedback saying I need to do something differently, it's a bruise to the ego, or it can be, but it doesn't have to be. Learning to give and receive feedback is a skill that I agree with you. I think everyone would benefit from that. That changed my life, learning to how to give and receive feedback, and not take it personally.
No, it helps keep you humble.
Yes.
But at the same time, you're growing. It's a win-win situation when you look at it from that perspective. I know there are a few schools out there, the cross-curriculum schools, that have classes where it's group learning, and you pick a leader and you pick that. Those are really nice classes. I actually was involved with some of those before, and it was a good experience, but not to the level what you're talking about. But yes, that feedback when I was in the military going through leadership, it was that feedback that helped me. Yeah, I was like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that, or I can't believe I did that. It made you humble, but it helped you to grow. And I see a lot of students nowadays, or a lot of young people, take it too personal.
Yes. And think about that in the military, when you are getting, yelled at.
Yeah, exactly. We all know.
Were they they weren't doing that to put you down.
No.
It was a teaching opportunity, right? And that's the thing. It's like, yeah, sometimes in love, like, you need to be firm and truthful, and there needs to be a proper maturity and understanding of how to receive that.
Yes, and and I learned this as a parent, your children will learn by example. So if you parents are not having that same mentality, your kids won't pick it up either. And then pretty soon you wonder why your kids turned out, and then you look at yourself and go, okay, no.
No, they're just like me.
Dang it.
Oh, man.
It's true, though. Children do learn what they live.
And they hear, too, everything.
And they use it against you.
Yes, they do. Oh, gotta love those
It's a
little
whole
things.
other podcast.
Right. A whole other thing. As you're talking about mentoring, I think that's a key component as we look at what do we do to positively contribute to this battle for the soul of America. Think back, we all were encouraged in school to identify a role model or a mentor, somebody who was going where we wanted to go. And now I have had the experience of talking to a lot of young people. And if you ask them a role model or a mentor, many of them are going to tell you a YouTuber,
Yep.
an influencer who is
Yeah.
their exact same age, and it's kind of like, well, they've been around the same block the same number of times you have. You need to look to somebody who's been through the school of hard knocks. How do we get that concept of really identifying a mentor who has some wisdom tucked away?
Whew. The first thing that came to my mind, I was in Boy Scouts when I was young.
Yeah.
And that was the best program I
Yeah.
ever was in. You know, it's changed a little bit, but...
I have another program for you instead.
There you
saying.
go. A little plug there, huh?
little plug. But I would love to see something like that started.
Yeah.
Sports is a great way to learn leadership and that humility about taking feedback and stuff like that. And so I encouraged all of my kids and all everybody, man, if you don't have anything you're involved with, no clubs, go do a sport. Do
Yeah.
something, but be involved with that a thing that gives you connection with people and helps
Right.
you learn and grow. We were talking earlier, you can't learn and grow if there's no connection.
Right. And we are being fed this lie that, we don't really need to get together and have a conversation because we can just do it on text or email. And certainly that's convenient for certain things. But the whole reason that Table Talk was created is because coming to the table and having real conversations, I believe it matters more than ever.
But I can watch a video.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's why this is not a Zoom call, right?
That's right.
Exactly.
They say death by PowerPoint. Now there's death by information. Like we're so information overloaded, but we're not living. We're not engaged in life.
Right.
And that's what those programs, a part of that brings, is just engaging in life and experience.
As you're saying that, Charity, I'm thinking about go to a restaurant. We all can look around and see a lot of people who are alone together. Mm-hmm. They're on their phone. They're not
Yeah.
really engaging the way they once were, where we didn't have that option of picking up a device and being distracted while we waited for our meal to arrive at the table. So I think finding ways to really just spark that conversation and to get people to realize it's okay to put the device down for a minute.
Yeah, culturally and as society, it's technology has changed so fast that we really haven't caught up to figure out what is best for us. Like, because we have constant connection and we have constant engagement and constant consumption at any moment whatsoever. And it's not that long ago. You look at these videos I've seen online. People take these old VHS tapes that they did when they were in high school. And like, this is what it was like in high school in 1999, right? And it's people engaging with each other because obviously they didn't have phones, and it's like that's only 20 some odd years ago, and how far have we changed culturally?
Yes.
Like if you go to Idaho Falls High School now, it's like you're going to see a lot of heads down, right? Not engaged with each other.
It's so true. I would love to see some of those. That would be fun to look back on.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It kind of catches you off guard because you're like, oh yeah, that's what my high school experience was, but it feels very foreign.
Oh, yeah. Based on where we're at right
Yeah.
now.
I definitely believe that we have to start educating our younger generation, the small kids, the ones that we still have pull with. And they're the ones that are going to be in the future. They're going to be running the country. They're going to be the ones growing up to inherit whatever we have to give them. And I think if we concentrate on the younger generation, where they haven't gotten over 10 years old, because after that, it gets kind of like...
Okay, you're kind of implying that they're helpless, a little older, and I don't think that's your intent, and I don't agree with
it's
that.
not.
But I see what you're saying. I
Yep.
think it's
No,
all important.
like I said, I've worked with a lot of teens, and they're really great. But to basically start over in that heart work where
Yeah.
you have less interference.
Yeah.
that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And you want to make sure it's not because I've seen people go the full extreme route and just go through prohibition.
Yeah.
Now, what you need to do is you need to help equip them to figure out how to navigate it in a healthy way.
Yes.
It is. It's that idea that balance really is the key.
Yep.
Because completely taking it away,
Yep.
then you alienate them, and now they don't really fit in. So it is empowering them, I think. Empower you, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
But the whole idea of just getting them to see the value in the fact that there is life outside of the screen.
And that's difficult to do.
Yes, it is.
I have one of my sons in college. He was trying to gather people to just kind of have conversations, and it was very difficult because they get there and then they're on their phone pretty soon. He's just like, I don't even know how to navigate creating an experience where people can have conversations. Now you keep trying, right? You're going to find your people, and he has, but he just noticed that it was very difficult to get his peers on board with just like, let's get together and let's talk deep. You know, they want to talk sports or watch sports or, get the instant dopamine hits, right?
Right.
But going deep is so important, and it's becoming an unexplored territory in some.
And there are a lot of voices out there who are suggesting that that's old-fashioned, that's outdated, that's not where we're at. And so I think it does become important to really just highlight that there is power in conversation.
You bring up a good point, because I've actually ran across this in middle school, and even with my older teens. Creating a deeper conversation is with what technology and social media has done is it's pretty close to impossible, but it's not. The one thing that I realized is it's already been proven. They've proven that the social media stuff and all this is like being on a drug. It's a dopamine hit. It's that feel good, and you get hooked on it, and you want to be pulled into it. I've been pulled into it. I'll admit it right now. And what I found out is better than that is when you present them with something that's so emotionally positive that it overwrites and becomes the new dopamine.
So give us an example.
Okay, so in school, there was this girl. She came up and she was upset about, friends were teasing her. She had some posts on social media. She was having problems with her boyfriend, and she was just in shambles. And I said, "Would you do something for me?" And she said, "Sure." I said, "It's this young man's birthday. Would you please sing a solo to him? Happy birthday." So she goes, "No." I said, "I'll start, come on. Here, I'll stand up with you and I'll start singing with you." So finally the whole class, "Yes, let's go." So we start singing, and she starts singing so beautifully. I just stopped singing, and she did the whole song right to the end. And after she got done, I asked her, were you nervous? Yes. Did it feel good? Yes. And it happened to be the first time that boy had ever experienced something like that in his life as well.
Wow.
It became a double overwrite in both their lives,
Yeah.
giving them both a positive point where that memory was like a big, huge pathway to the brain. And to this day, she's never forgotten that, and neither is he.
I love that. How do we bring more of that?
Yeah, that's
You know?
the
See, that's a lot of people get, these hits out of doing something ridiculous. But I think if we get the ball rolling and start somebody, like you start a group or you start a thing where you can come and do something positively. Now I call it embarrassing because it is embarrassing, but it's a good embarrassing. Like singing a solo or doing a dance or something like that, and then have that overwrite those other things to where that power of positivity becomes more powerful than the negative. And then you're drawn toward that more positive thing because the negative now doesn't have that draw. Doesn't have that hunger that it used to.
That's some interesting examples for sure. And I think we do need just some proactive effort in that area because as you look at everything that's unfolding, there's no question that our enemies want to see more of this division because where there is division, there's chaos. And so I believe reminding ourselves that we're all on the same team is a really important part of all of this because we're better together.
I believe there's a lot of people out there who would love to do something like this. And that's who I'd be calling on, are all the people that are not sure if they should step forward, how they should make our country better, how they should take part in take an active role in actually improving our country, improving
Yeah.
our communities. There's lots of people that are scared out there, like you said. They're not willing to because of the backlash. But I think love should be more powerful than the fears.
Yeah, encouraging people to reclaim that humanity, that compassion, and to recognize, you know what? We were all born to be change makers. And I say this often, you do not need a special invitation to be a thought leader. We're all thought leaders. You just have to tap into what you have and then step forward and be willing to shine in those dark places. And I think that's something that could make a huge difference.
I love that. I think there's a study, and I'm not going to quote it. I can give you the resource, but later I'll have to go look it up. But it was talking about public opinion versus personal opinion, and where the public opinion is often different from the personal opinions. And so we look at the public opinions and thinking, I'm the outlier here. I'm the only one who thinks differently. And everyone's, affirming what people are saying. And yet, when you look at the polls that were done about personal opinion, most people don't believe the public opinion in certain cases. I'm not saying across the board. And so knowing that can arm you with confidence to speak up, to step up, to gather people. Because there are more, like you said, more that, maybe you said it as well. I think we all believe this. There's more that we have in common and that we can build upon than what we have is divisive. But those narratives that we're so connected with make us feel so divided and alienated and dehumanized, and yet personal opinion has been proven to be more alike than different. So that was just such a fascinating study for me to learn. So that'll give you maybe some confidence. It's helped me for sure.
Sounds like a great opportunity for positive block parties.
Right?
There you go.
And, another example of why right now we need all the thought leaders to step to the front of the line, because you're exactly right. It takes courage. It takes courage to speak out. But when you do, you often find out, yes, there are those other, I think we can all think of a time where we did, and then other people come up and say, thank you so much. I was thinking the same thing. I just didn't speak up.
Yeah.
So speaking up is a big part of it.
Courage is contagious, right? I've
Yes,
heard that
I
before.
love
I
that
agree.
concept.
So let's spread it around.
Ooh, I like it.
And one of the biggest things I agree, Mark, is people need to find places to serve, right? I always joke with my kids. It's like, all right, I go and I do my job where I get paid so that I can do all the other jobs where I don't get paid, right? Because those are the ones that are like the more fulfilling, like ones that satisfying. And to do those things, to serve with no expectation to get anything back. You're just blessing. You're just trying to benefit the community and make things better. Like that's such a huge thing. And there's so many great opportunities here in Idaho Falls to do that.
Oh, yes.
Right, with the Idaho Falls Rescue Mission. Even at your church, whatever it might be. My family we serve, do a lot of stuff with our church. And I remember a pastor came and was like, "Hey, your son does all this great stuff with like the AV and stuff, and we want him to know that we appreciate him, and we want to be able to give him something and pay him for his efforts." And I said, "Oh, I love that, thank you, but don't pay him."
Exactly.
Because I don't want him to think that it's transactional. I said, if at Christmas time, if you want to give a gift as a thank you, because there's no expectation that this is transactional, that would be completely different. But I wanted to establish early on in my kids' lives that you're serving selflessly because that's the right thing.
Yep.
So true.
Agree 100%. I'm sorry, I got this block party thing going around.
Gotta set it up.
Set
Where's the
it
Facebook
up.
page? Get everybody.
That's right. I would love to give each of you a chance to maybe just share an example you've seen of somebody being a thought leader or serving, reaching outside themselves, who's really making a difference. I believe that as we talk about these things, it always inspires people. When you hear about service, when you hear about people stepping forward, it kind of connects with you on a deeper level, I think, and makes you say, what can I do?
Okay, I'll do one. I'll do one. But hopefully my son doesn't see this because he doesn't need his head any bigger here. So I serve as troop master for Trail Life USA troop, and my son was the first officer, and that gave him an opportunity to, in front of his peers, to learn how to be a leader, to be a communicator, to go up and give direction, let people know what was happening. And then, he had responsibilities, and it was in this safe environment where other leaders could speak into him and give him correction and opportunity for him to be better. Now, he was able to take that, and last year he did an amazing program, can't plug it enough. The American Legion does for juniors going into senior year of high school, and at the end of their junior year, they have this program called Boy State and Girl State. I think Model UN, but at the state level. And it's this wonderful leadership program. You get to learn about civics. And my son participated in that and loved it, right? And he was able to learn how to do, Robert's Rules of Order and parliamentary procedures and all sorts of stuff. And it was because he was able to compound that experience that he had in a safe way to try to be a leader, and then go and do that program. Well, the next year, because it's only for juniors going to senior, so he was a senior this year. He went back and was a junior counselor, and he got to lead these other young people, and so after this long week of him being this junior counselor, I went to pick him up, and I was like asking him just, how was it? How was your week? And of course he's super tired and all this stuff. He's like, but all he could say is, he goes, my team was great. We were the best at this, and we did that, and all this, and it was so like heartening to hear that he was encouraged by the results of this team that he was able to give into, right? That he was able to encourage, and it was like, that's pretty cool, because it wasn't about him. It was about what he was able to help kind of contribute and get the best out of these other youth. It was great.
We need more of that.
kidding.
Right?
I love that.
But yeah, don't tell my son that. He doesn't.
We'll keep it on the
That's the
down
word.
low.
Well, this is, I mean, there are many people who have come to mind, and then a thought came to mind, a memory about something my sister said to me came to mind, and this is just the silliest story, but it'll illustrate just not being a yes man, being someone who gives real feedback and is a friend enough to say something. And this is, again, very simple example. So when I was pregnant with my youngest, my daughter, my family was asking me, what are you going to name her? And so just jokingly, and that's kind of my nature with my family, I just said, our Uncle Lavelle, he's just my favorite. And so I want to name her in honor of him. And we're going to name her Lar capital Delle. And I would just let it land. They're like, wait, Lardell? And there were many family members who were like, that they're trying to say something nice without offending me. But one of my sisters, she's like, so you're going to name her Lardell. Do you not hear lard? Like, she's going to be made fun of. You cannot name her that. And so that's just a silly example. And even though I was joking around, I know who's going to tell me the truth. I know who's going to give me the real feedback. And we need people like that in our lives who are willing to give us feedback and say, hey, you know what, maybe you want to reevaluate this, or, here's kind of what I'm thinking about this. It doesn't mean you need to do what they say, but evaluate it and receive that feedback in a way to help you make those choices. And so I could tell a few other stories, but that is the one that just came to mind as you were talking. So be willing to receive feedback and give feedback.
That is a game changer.
Even if you're messing
And
with
as
people.
you think about, though, everything that's going on, I believe it's getting a little harder for people to want to speak out, because think about all the people who were uninvited to Thanksgiving or Christmas based on who they voted for or what they think, feel, or believe. So I think people are getting a little timid. So we need to kind of push the power of courage.
Encourage other people to get over their fears and realize that that's the best thing they can do. She reminded me of something, but the first person to inspire me was my Spanish teacher. That's why I became a teacher, but I'm going to be a little biased here. My greatest sounding board, the person who will tell me to my face when I'm, need feedback, whether I ask for it or not, bless her heart, is my wife. She's the most giving person I've ever met. I'm an extrovert. She's an introvert. And she likes to stay at home, but she gives and gives and gives and gives and makes me look good. And so I have to say, she's the one that will tell me with the honesty that I need to hear, hey, you shouldn't do that. Or, no, this is a better way to do that. And I have to, in all humility, have to step back and say, okay, yeah, I guess I am doing that. Because, you have that natural instinct to want to go,
We all do.
don't talk to me like that. But I am so grateful for having that kind of a person in my life. To me, she's more giving than I am. And I love to give, but she's got me beat by years. So that's my story.
Well, we are almost out of time. Time just flies. This has been such a really good conversation. I want to give each of you an opportunity to just share any final thoughts. And I'm a big believer in the power of words. So as we kind of come full circle and come back to the fact that we are in the midst of a battle to save the soul of America, but there's a lot to be excited about. Is there a word that you could throw out that might give some inspiration to people, to remind them that the American dream is not a thing of the past? It's right here. It's within our reach. And certainly, we are fortunate to be in a community who prioritizes giving back. So whoever wants to go, you ready? All right, go for it.
the one thing that just popped into my head that I talk to this about everybody. I said, don't complain. Just be grateful for every little thing you have. I've been in foreign countries. I've been around the world. And I'll tell you what, we have got it better here, even in our worst moments. What we've been blessed with in this country is beyond words. And when you start looking at all the things you can be grateful for, all the bad things start to disappear.
That is the power of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for adding your perspective to this conversation.
Well, thank you for having me here. It's been great. I had a great company here.
We've had a good time, right?
Yep. It has been awesome.
Charity?
Only one, huh?
Well, if you've got, go ahead.
So, as we were talking about giving and receiving feedback, I think it's important to remember that sometimes it stings. You know, we're going to have emotions. None of us are immune to feeling like offended, right? Or feeling like, I did not want to hear that. So give yourself grace and recognize that if you're feeling something, it just might mean there's something inside that needs to be healed or questioned to help you understand, like you were saying earlier, why am I feeling this in the first place? But don't be afraid of emotion, but just let it be data to guide you to navigate through it. So what would that be? Embrace your humanity.
So true.
So humanity.
Humanity.
Back to one word.
I mean, humanity, it is a game changer for sure. Yeah. Charity, thank you so much for being here and sharing your insight with us today. Mm-hmm. And Jeff.
All right. Well, what I just come to think of is that our country is incredibly blessed, and I think we all just need to be thankful for it. There's I was going to remember the exact the verse here, but I love when Paul said that he says, I know what it's like to be in need. I know what it's like to have plenty. In each and every situation, I've learned the secret of being content, right? And my kids make fun of me because they're like, Dad, what do you want? What do you want for your birthday? And it's like, I don't need anything. I've learned. That's like I God has blessed me. Uh-huh. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and so like on my birthday one time they open up and there's this card and it's this paper. You pull it up and it says, "I'm a very content man." was from my children.
That's awesome.
Oh, I love that.
But so yeah, I was just say like this is such an amazing country. Well, we've gone through so many different things the last 250 years, right? Mm-hmm. There's been probably so many different times throughout our nation's history that it was like, oh wow, is this just going to crumble, right? Whether it's the Civil War or global wars or even civil rights or Vietnam or anything like that, right? We've seen a lot of chaos. We've gone through a lot of it, but through it all, right? There's been people who have been incredibly who have been are in need. Not just it's always going to be that way. There have been people who have had plenty, but I think we should be thankful that we have this amazing country, that we've been able to be such a the world is a beneficiary of the blessings that we've been. So just two things is like what an amazing blessing our country is, and that we should be thankful for it.
Gratitude is really something that makes a huge difference. It gets us moving in that right direction. And you've all pointed to that today, as you've talked about, when we focus on what we have, it shifts that perspective quite a bit. The word that I would choose is vibrant. I think this nation is vibrant, and together we are going to win the battle for the soul of America. Thanks so much for spending time with us today. Again, a big thank you to Classic Interiors. Go visit them. They have beautiful tables that will be perfect for you to host your own table talk conversations. And thank you to Gandolfo's. They are the perfect place to get a picnic to go. So thank you again, and we'll see you next month.